Well, back to the news that part of the ceiling of the Apollo Theatre in London has collapsed during a performance. Andrew Verity is at the scene. Andrew, what is the latest now?
Well, Kirsty, we know now that there have been no fatalities from this. We've got the total of the number injured. 85 is the total, 81 walking wounded, that's cuts and bruises and the like, 4 more seriously injured, but nothing life-threatening. Those 4 have been taken to 3 hospitals around London, including UCH, St Thomas's. When I got here just before 9 o'clock, it was quite a chaotic scene. Certainly a lot of adrenaline rushing around for the police, who were shouting at people to get behind cordons. Thousands of people out carousing on a Thursday night, as they do in Soho, trying to bring that into order. Then I spoke to eyewitnesses who've told us their accounts, with soot still on their faces, of what happened. 700 people were packed into the Apollo Theatre watching the curious incident of the dog at night time. About 40 minutes into that performance, there was a cracking sound, and then dust came down from the ceiling. And then about a quarter to a third of the ceiling, according to eyewitnesses I've spoken to, fell down onto the stalls, not the higher circles. It's a fairly steep theatre. It fell down onto the stalls. There was dust everywhere. People started moving out. Within about 3 minutes, the police were on the scene, taking things in hand. Some of the injured were taken to nearby theatres, including the Gielgud Theatre and the Queen's Theatre, which you'll know for Les Miserables, where they were attended to, and they were still being attended to an hour or two later. I've just recently seen a crane going up to the roof of the theatre, clearly trying to fix it.
Thank you very much, Andrew Verity. Vladimir Putin waited until the very end of his press conference today, confirming that the amnesty for Russian prisoners would include the 2 jailed members of Pussy Riot and the 30-member crew of the Greenpeace protest ship, before dropping a bombshell that he intended to pardon the former oligarch and political campaigner Mikhail Khodorkovsky, who spent 10 years in prison in Russia. The move is designed to ease tensions building ahead of February's Winter Olympics in Sochi. But what will be the future for Khodorkovsky, once one of the world's richest men? Here's Rachel Wright.
Several weeks after my arrest, I was informed that President Putin had decided I was going to have to slurp gruel for 8 years.
The words of Mikhail Khodorkovsky, spoken by the actor Sebastian Koch at a German concert for human rights last month, titled To Russia with Love.
For me, as for anybody, it's hard to live in jail, and I do not want to die there.
He spoke those words to a court in 2010, facing charges of embezzling $27 billion. New charges and a new trial. He'd already been in jail for 7 years. Khodorkovsky got rich like Roman Abramovich after his bank lent money to a Russian state-owned oil company. These loans were later swapped for underpriced shares, which were soon worth billions. Before he turned 40, he was the richest man in Russia. But in February 2003, Khodorkovsky went on national TV and made allegations of high-level corruption. His fate was sealed.
I'm also here as a son of Mikhail Khodorkovsky.
Supporters have campaigned with appeals from his son, hunger strikes and letter campaigns. Nothing worked. But today his release was announced almost as an afterthought, after a press conference where Putin freed Greenpeace campaigners and the punk band Pussy Riot. In Russia now, the law can sometimes be hard to distinguish from the president's wishes.
He has already spent 10 years in jail. It's a serious punishment. He refers to circumstances of a humanitarian nature. His mother is ill, and I think that bearing in mind those circumstances, it is possible to make that decision, and I will soon sign an order about his pardon.
With the Winter Olympics in Sochi coming up, skeptics may believe that President Putin is concerned about avoiding another boycott of a Russian Olympics.